In fact, the Jeep Renegade is a successful combination of a mischievous appearance, excellent dynamics, and reckless handling, with decent cross-country ability for a crossover and good passenger comfort. Actually, the Renegade had only one drawback on the Russian market. There was no off-road version of the Trailhawk in the official sale. Well, the second, in November 2019, following the Cherokee, our hero left the country, which, oddly enough, caused a deep disappointment of the public. But we will not analyze the reasons for his departure and be sad about missed opportunities, but we'll turn to online car sales sites. After all, more than 1,200 Renegades sold with us should have already replenished the lists of used Jeeps. And this is not counting the beaten and drowned imported from America, a 1.4-liter engine. It went into customs clearance like a tomahawk in oil. These are the most on the secondary market. Although, of course, using the word more, despite the fact that only a couple of dozen Renegade are sold in Moscow and the surrounding area, is not very appropriate. The 1.4-liter engine develops 170 horsepower with, thanks to the turbine, which turned out to be quite reliable. Anyway, this motor, for the most part, does not disappoint the owners. The consumption is low, the power is sufficient, the dynamics are at the level. One of the most common problems that arise with the Fire, as it is called by the factory nomenclature, is the incorrect operation of the ignition coils. There are 4 of them by the number of cylinders and candles. The problem is a burning, and more often flashing, check engine light and rough engine idling. He shakes like a Mexican illegal at the mention of Trump's name, and he makes sounds about the same. Opinions of diagnosticians differ here. They say it's not the coils that are to blame, but either the wires or the fasteners, in a word, the assembly of the assembly, which was carried out by the half-brother of a Mexican illegal, only from North Africa. Renegade is the only Jeep that is entirely assembled outside of America and not from American components, which means that it does not take pride in being assembled in the USA. Contact failure does not lead to an instant failure of the ignition system, but gradually brings the owner. Eventually, coils wear out and need to be replaced. It is also wise to change the spark plugs. A set of coils will cost from $8,000 to $16,000, depending on whether you take the original or an analog. Candles are ordinary, and it makes no sense to buy the original for $4,000 if you can take the same Bosch for 800 rubles apiece. The second trouble is oil consumption for waste. This happens most often due to problems with coke piston rings. Prevention is recommended in the form of gasoline with detergent properties, additives, and oil changes a little more often than prescribed by the regulations if operating conditions are harsh. It happens that the pipe of the cooling system, which comes to the radiator of the stove in the engine compartment, rubs against the vacuum tube of the brake system. Damage is formed and the antifreeze is gone. It is not easy to find a leak, because during operation it evaporates, but does not flow when it is muffled. It is usually detected by adding a fluorescent liquid that glows under ultraviolet light and replacing the nozzle. If the diagnostic scanner finds a code P0073, especially together with P0071, then this is the outside temperature sensor. Its work affects the mixture formation and smooth operation of the motor, drive control, as well as the performance of the air conditioner. They say this is an old Fiat problem related to the leakage of the sensor contact group, treated by replacement. The owner will be slightly surprised, but the sensor assembly with the side mirror is changing and the part is estimated at 2,500 rubles during disassembly. But if you search the net, you can find craftsmen who make and sell sensors as a separate element, which comes out 5 times cheaper. The transmission of the Jeep Renegade is simple and generally typical for crossovers, an automatic 9-speed gearbox. The main drive is front-wheel drive. A rear gearbox is connected to it through the cardan shaft. The peculiarity of the drive is that in the power takeoff unit, at the front gearbox, there is a cam clutch, and there is an electromagnetic clutch in front of the rear differential. When the Jeep is driving on dry, smooth pavement, the cardan is out of service. As soon as the road or off-road conditions change, it can even be a temperature drop below zero, the electronically controlled clutch closes smoothly, the shaft rotates and the front clutch is activated, the drive becomes full. He is helped by the traction control system and other electronic assistance. The scheme is simple, elegant, and reliable. True, in difficult conditions, the connection is sometimes accompanied by a noticeable jerk, but this does not lead to serious problems. The Renegade has a McPherson strut front and rear. At the same time, for some reason, the manufacturer recommends pumping wheels up to 2.4 atmospheres. It turns out hard and the rack supports quickly fail. Therefore, experienced owners blow 2.2 in front and 2.0 ATM in the back if the car is not loaded. This does not affect handling, but the ride is more comfortable. The supports of the rear and front pillars cost about 5,000 to 6,000 rubles per pair. If during acceleration and braking a clattering sound is heard from somewhere in front, then it's time to replace the front-wheel drives. Officially, they are not being repaired, but are being replaced as a whole. You need to find out which side the noise is coming from and buy only one drive. Moreover, the original on the left costs about 50,000, analog, 16, and on the right it is 5,000 more expensive, because it is almost half a meter longer. The interior of the Jeep Renegade, like no other, illustrates the slightly worn saying that, they say, it is bigger inside than outside. Few people expect that a little more than 4 meters long baby can comfortably accommodate 5 adults. Yes, it's better not to remember the trunk, although in fact it is still there. The interior, even with the most ordinary rag, looks quite rich, wears out not too quickly, and is generally quite reliable. Sometimes upsets the radio, which can lose frequencies, presets and generally behave unpredictably. It helps either a banal off-on or replacement with another suitable head unit. As we said, there are not many Jeep Renegade in the secondary market, but there is some choice. Most of all cars with a 1.4-liter turbo engine, with a capacity of 140 and 170 horses. There are options with 1.6 and 2.0-liter diesel engines. The crossover was assembled in Italy and was actively sold in Europe, so the presence of diesel versions is not surprising. There are a couple of extremely rare and very interesting versions of the Trailhawk. They are equipped with 2.4-liter engines, 9-speed transmissions with the gear ratio extended to 21, active drive, low drive, an additional section in the assistance functionality, increased ground clearance, protection, and larger wheels. They cost, however, almost like a Wrangler, but almost exclusive. In addition, the Renegade, not taken seriously, turns out to be not only capable, but also quite a real Jeep, which did not disgrace either its American or Italian ancestors. You don't think that Italians don't know how to make cars, do you?